Hi, welcome to Muzzle First. So I picked up a used pistol the other day, and I thought we would take this opportunity to talk about used magazines. This pistol came with four used magazines. It came with two of them that are the factory originals. It says 14 rounds on them. I'm assuming that's what they take. You can notice at the bottom they are crimped to limit the capacity in them. And then it also came with two Metgar magazines that have a 17 round capacity. The thing is, I don't know anything about these magazines. I don't know how old they are. I have no idea how many rounds have been through them, what kind of ammo's been through them. So we're going to inspect them before we use them. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about used magazines. I do buy a lot of used magazines, either with guns that you get or for guns that I already have. A lot of times you can save a lot of money with used magazines. You can pick them up a lot cheaper than buying brand new ones. Case in point was SIG. Sometimes you can find SIG magazines for about a third the price if you buy them used. I buy a lot of magazines on Gunbroker. I buy magazines. Sometimes I find used magazines at the gun shop, at the local gun store. Sometimes they'll have a box of used magazines that somebody wants to sell. I also find used magazines on Arms List, and I've bought used magazines for all the sources. Arms List, I don't normally do shipping. I normally do face-to-face on Arms List. It's just the safest way to do that one. But I've never had a problem with used magazines, but I always want to inspect them and clean them first, and that's what we're going to do today. So let's move a couple of these out of the way, and I'm going to put down a towel just to soak up any of the cleaners that we get in the way here. A couple things can happen to magazines. From being dropped, you can get bent feed lips. You can also damage the follower, or the spring themselves can go bad in them. These all seem to have pretty good tension. I don't notice any problems with them popping back up, but you can tell from the tip of my finger, these are dirty. So, judging from the gun, I'm going to go on a limb here and say no one has probably ever cleaned these magazines. So let's take one apart, and I'll show you what I'm looking for. And we'll go over some of the basics here. Most of these types of magazines come apart the same way. There's usually a button or something on the base that you're going to release the tension on it, and then they'll usually just slide right off. You do want to put your thumb over it and catch a spring because they will pop out and go across the room, but it's larger pieces so you can usually find them. Oh yeah. So these things are really dirty. You can just tell by my hands how dirty we're getting here. The only real failures I've had in magazines has been from dirt, from crud. And real quick here, before I put all this apart, I'm going to show you something to pay attention to. If you notice the way that the feed lips are shaped, if you're ever confused on how the follower goes back in the magazine, it's going to go the same way. That follower is going to be roughly the same angle as the feed lips. So, you see what I mean? If you get it in there backwards, it's not going to look right. So, there's not much danger in getting these back together wrong, in the wrong direction. You will notice that this one here does have a hook on the bottom to retain the spring. And I'll give you a quick look there. Look at the brass and the residue that's on the bottom of that the plate there. That's stuff that has fallen down inside the magazine from the ammunition. So we're going to clean that out real quick. And man, that magazine is filthy. See if we can get a good look in here. See if we can get a white background to give it a little more light. Alright, so that's a before picture. You can see the filth in there. There's no shine in that magazine. It's pretty filthy. Alright, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I have gun oil on the table, and I put it on the table for a reason. Never oil the inside of your magazines. There's only a couple magazines that really require oil in them, and if in doubt, don't oil them. This type of magazine here, you want them dry. Any oil that's left on the sides here is just going to collect more of that. You're going to get more of that buildup in here. You see how this stuff had fallen all the way through the magazine and it accumulated here? If you had a lot of oil inside this magazine, it's liable to collect on the sides there. And when it collects on the sides like that, you'll have problems with the follower moving up and down inside that magazine. It'll get hung up on there. And I've had that happen. I had it happen with one of my SIGs. And that's the only thing I've really had happen with magazines is dirt. So we're going to put this aside. We're not going to use any oil in these. So I'm going to clean these pretty much the same way that I would clean a gun. I'm going to use a little hops. You can just run a dry towel through them and call it good if you want. But I don't know that these have ever been cleaned. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this wet and I'm going to run it through it. And then we're going to run a dry towel through it. The goal is to have it dry when we're done. Alright? You don't want to have these oily or wet for use. Let's just see how much stuff we get out of here. And I'm only going to do one of these magazines because it's going to take me a little while to do all 4 of them. But here we go. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to hit the camera stand there. Alright, I want you to check that out. That is from inside of the magazine body. That's filthy. I mean, that's powder residue, and you can even see the brass. You can see the brass shavings in here. Cool. Yeah, so these were pretty dirty. See if I can get the cleaner side of this in there. So like I said, the main thing that you want to keep in mind here is you're just getting it clean. You're not gonna lube this on the inside. That follower, it may seem like oil would be a good idea in there to help the follower slide, but it won't. It'll just collect more of this because some ammo is a lot dirtier than others, and I'm not sure what they were using, but that's from the inside of that magazine. Like I said, I have no idea if this magazine has ever been cleaned. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if it has, it's been very, very few times. Probably has never been cleaned. So the only other thing we want to do with the body is dry it. We're just going to clean it and we're going to dry it and we're going to put it back together. Alright? Like I said, no oil. You might think I'm being silly about that, but it'll just pick up more dirt and you'll find yourself having more and more problems with it. So, and I'll also mention this, if you are having problems with a magazine, this might be something you do is just clean it out. You'd be surprised what you can get out of these magazines. Oh, that looks a lot better. Be surprised. Have a look through there. Nice and shiny. We still got a little bit of dirt here on the inside of the feed lips, and toward the top there's a little more buildup. But you can see how much better that magazine looks on the inside now. That is impressive. So that was really dirty. Like I said, you can save a lot of money with used magazines. You have to watch what you're buying though, and you also have to know what the magazine would cost new. And like I said, watch Arms List is a good place for it if you want to buy it local. If you don't mind paying a little bit on shipping, you can. Gun Broker is a good place to pick up magazines. You might ask, why would you buy a used magazine instead of buying a new one? Like we already talked about, one of the things we already talked about was cost. You can buy them cheaper. You can buy magazines for a third the price, half the price of buying new ones. And a lot of times it comes down to availability. If you can't find new magazines for the gun that you have, buy used ones. There's nothing wrong with used magazines. Like I said, I do buy them all the time when I find them on sale. Now, if I have an option of buying a new magazine or a used magazine, and they're the same price or very close to the same price, I'll buy the new one. You know, that's kind of a no-brainer. But if I can't find a new magazine for my firearm, or if I find used ones cheap, I'll buy them. I'll buy them all the time. Even for guns that I don't carry a lot, I do have a lot of magazines that I've purchased for some of my guns that I don't, they just sit in a safe. But if I ever want them, if I ever need them, they're there. Alright, that looks a lot better. Alright. Looks pretty clean on the inside. That is a huge difference on the inside of that magazine. Like I said, that was filthy. I've seen them that bad before, and I've actually seen them worse than that. But, alright, we're going to put that aside real quick. I'm going to use the same towel here, and we're going to go over the spring. Alright, so I am going to pay attention to how this spring is sitting on here. So the spring is two different ends. So the end that has the curled end is on the bottom, and we're going to try and put it back together exactly the way we took it apart. May not be able to, but it doesn't want to come out of there. I may have to leave that together. I'm not going to force it to come apart. Alright. Spring, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to wash it and dry it. I'm not going to use any oil on the spring, any of the components in this magazine. I'm going to put everything in this magazine back together dry. Like I said, it seems like oil would help that follower move more freely inside the magazine, but it won't. It'll just cause it to build up more powder residue quicker, and you'll have a failure in that magazine quicker than you would normally. So whenever I have a problem with one of my magazines not feeding properly, this is one of the things, this is what I do. I take them apart and clean them. And most of the time, you'll find that that magazine runs a lot better after you clean it. This little floor plate here definitely wants to move around, doesn't it? Doesn't want to come off of there. It's crimped on that one side, so I'm gonna leave it on there. But it definitely wants to move around on me. But that's the basic side. That's the basic idea of it. I wanted to show you the inside of these magazines. I had not looked at these yet, but I figured they were going to be pretty dirty. And this is one of the things that I do for a new pistol. That before I go shoot it, I'm gonna go a used pistol, I should say. When I purchase a used pistol, I'm going to clean the magazines out, because I'm going to bet most people probably don't clean the magazines. A lot of people probably just, when they don't run right, they just pitch them. But normally with magazines, if they don't run right, a lot of times you can just clean them and they'll run better. Alright, that's 2 parts down. Getting pretty dirty here, but I think we got enough to clean the rest of them. Not a whole lot of dirt on that one, because this is underneath the this plate here, and this plate here caught most of the fouling. So, all right, that was pretty dirty. The follower, I'm really just going to clean it. I'm going to try to polish it a little bit, just to make sure we get any kind of a lot of times you'll get the powder fouling and the brass residue. It'll get kind of rubbed in here, and it'll be a little difficult to get off, but usually it'll come off of there. You'll notice a slight change in color. A little harder to notice on the follower when they're darker colors like that, but on some of the followers you have that are orange or whatever, you'll notice that there'll be a gold color or a black color fouling on them, and that's just from the powder and from the brass. And a lot of times there's a lubricant that's on the outside of some ammos that'll cause that as well. But all right, that's pretty common in 22s for them to lube the outside of it so it'll feed easier. That's a lot better. I feel a lot better about this magazine now. Like I said, I'm going to do the other 3 here also, but I'm not going to make you sit around for that. We're going to put it back together and call it quits. At least for the video. Alright, reassembly. Like I said, everything in the magazine has a cant to it. So if you're ever in doubt on how it goes back together, just kind of look at the way things are shaped. You know, they have kind of a natural shape to the feed lips in the magazine. And like I said, I'm talking about the feed lips, the part that's actually bent, not the angled part here where the bullet actually feeds through. We're talking about the feed lips. So there is a natural cant to these feed lips that should match your follower. Alright, and we're just going to feed everything back together. Hopefully the same way we took it apart. These springs can be a little difficult to get back in there, but they're usually not too bad at all. Alright. These base plates will normally only go on one way. Get it started. There we go. That pop in there was a good sign because it popped into place and it's being held in place. That's it. It's working good. Thank you for hanging in here with me for that. This has been Muzzle First. If you've got any questions, there's a space below this video where you can leave your questions. You can also send me an email at muzzlefirst@gmail.com, or you can visit my website, www.muzzlefirst.com. Please like the video, subscribe, share the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you, and you have a great day.